And welcome back. I am now going to start probably the last section of this class, where we're gonna review a bit what we've done so far, and we're gonna start being a bit more creative with the image. So as you see, I've rendered the car. I would say overall it's not too bad. I still have to refine a bit the integration. Thinking the lower part of the car, for example, here are a bit too lifted. There are a few areas which could help being improved, could need some help. Now, the one thing I actually want to do with the image is that at a glance, this image, so the car is still fairly dark and not that fascinating in the screen. So I will start by adding some breakup overall to the surface of the car. That's something that usually should be done in LookDev, but it's not uncommon either that you would have to add some breakup in comp. It will be very subtle, but it's just a matter of trying to add a bit of variations on the surface of the object. I will also turn on the headlamps, the headlights of the car, just so that they attract a bit more the attention in the frame and they are a bit more interesting. And I will carry on refining a touch some of the effects. For example, I think I'm missing some halation, and I will probably do a small pass of tech checks, just cleaning up things like this shadow in the back, which I forgot to clean up so far. And we'll see that because it's only so short, we'll be able to get around it fairly fast. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some detail to the body of the car. So for that, I actually imported already a small setup which I prepared before, but I will show you exactly what I am doing. So the idea for me here is that I'm going to add textual detail using the position path. So to do that, there are different techniques, and the position path actually is not the only way to do it. You could also do it using UV maps, so using the UV space of the car, which if it were rendered, I think in our case it's actually rendered, but it's not super clean for our current usage. We could use 3D production on the Alembic, but in this case I'm going to show you this first approach, which I think is usually quite cheap and efficient. So I've got these nodes here, which I just recreated yesterday. They are fairly fast to create. I just added a few controllers, and there's nothing magic in it. This one is very basic. I should add more functions after. But the core idea behind that is that we use basic mathematical functions which are included in Nuke, which I'm gonna show you really, really quick. So some of the functions of Nuke use basically the expression node, can be used with basic operations. So for example, I believe I'll need probably to reuse the help for this one. All right, let's see. This one is not yet resolved. All right, so let me access the help. There we go. So the math I'm using here is going to be most likely the FBM. This is equivalent to the noise 2D you have in Nuke, except this one is applied to a 3D coordinate. It's not a 4D noise, meaning that it doesn't have a time attribute. The time attribute would be the Z in the end, but because we're in 3D space, we won't have it. But it's usually quite useful. And what this one requires is 6 values in total. X, Y, Z values, which will be the coordinate of the noise system. The octaves, which are the amount of increment you apply to the grain. The lacunarity, which is the amount of how much each octave is going to be scaled and gained. And the gain, which is the multiplication at each step of the noise. So for my FBM here, what I'm doing is X, Y, Z are going to be the red, green, blue of my shuffle here. And I'm going to add 2 more values. So one of them will be the octave, which by default 8 is a value which is usually okay. And I'm going to use 2 for lacunarity, and gain should be 0.5, for example. And there we go. this is straight up already a noise pattern. So this noise here is based on the world coordinates, meaning that when our car evolves in the world, most likely this noise will start sliding on top of the car or underneath the car. There we go. So as you see, it's sliding quite fast because our car is fast. But that allows us to already get some variations. Now, the key here is you can modify these values and tie them to different parameters which you have here. In my case, my noise is basically the same mass, except instead of linearity, scale, etc., I've actually piped these variables in it so that I have some overall control of the shape. So global scale, as I reduce, the noise becomes higher frequency. I can go very low frequency and it will continue becoming bigger. Octave, same. It's directly connected to this parameter of the expression inside the group. So you can start increasing the things. Gain, again, same thing. We want to keep it probably low. Gamma, up and down. Linearity, again, that's the amount of basically how much each step is going to be scaled up or down, well, down in this case, compared to the original one. And now the part here which interests us is that I have asked Charles to export an animation curve for me, which is an axis. Let me try to recover it for you. So I go to create an axis, and if I'm not mistaken, I shall be able to read from file, and I have a locator here, and this locator, yep, that's right. There we go. This locator has animation values, which are exactly the same as this one. So this locator, basically what it does, it's stuck to the car. So let me open probably the car animation. And my computer is going to die. All right. So I'm not going to stay in this very long, but as you see, the axis is at the base of the car and it's going to move with the car. So let me remove this one. And let's also show the camera. There we go. And as we see, the axis should travel with the car. Okay. So now this axis I can basically use as an offset on my world position, so that instead, when the noise is applied to the car, instead of trying to be based on the coordinates of the world, it's actually based on the coordinates of the car, because I'm adding the car as an offset. Now what that means is that when I move this noise, as you see, the noise travels with the car. I have very little or not at all distortion, and that's actually quite cool, because now I can use this map subtly to break up some of the elements. In my case, I'm going to break up the specular, and for that I'm going here, and as you see here, I'm adding the spec and the diffuse, and I'm removing them from the plate. So what I need now is to make sure that I'm separating those. There we go. It's going to be the same system, except I will have adjusted individually the spec. There we go. Now I can modify the spec by grabbing this small pattern. So this one is basically a succession of noises. Each of them has a slightly different parameter, so that they have different variations and textural properties. And they are all straight away giving us faint variations of the spec. So let me expose this up. And as you see, it's quite subtle. And let me try to make the image a bit bigger. It's quite subtle, but I'm starting to get these variations. Again, it needs to be done with subtlety. If it's too strong, you might affect too much the look there, which is never a good thing. So you want it to be as faint as possible, while still giving you some sense of variations in dirt or just fading on these. It's not a big contribution, but it tends to help sometimes when you have a CG which is a bit too, let's say, synthetic. It helps giving you that extra level of randomness, which is natural in plates and in real cars. So there we go. Right. So we have our car here, and let me just do this. All right, so this is with and this is without. As you see, that surface is extremely smooth, and when I add this, we have just a hint of variations, which is just a kind of modifications I want to apply to my image. Let's see how it looks in context. See, so we have now very subtle differences on the shading, which to me helps a bit the image. It might not please the car seller if you were to do a car commercial, for example, but in feature film, most likely we just want to go for what works. Right, so the other thing I would like to do is I would like to add some variations to the windshield specifically. So for the windshield, we have two things that's going to help us. We have an ID of the windshield, which will be the ID1 red channel, and we can also load an alembic. So same thing as before. With geo. And I'm going to go there, and I'm going to take the windshield unwrapped. I'm hoping that when you will open your own objects, it will have been a bit cleaned up. I have more geometries most likely than you will have in your folders. So I have the windshield here, which is traveling, and I'm be able to apply some textures to it, and then we'll see what we can get. So let's put a quick checkerboard on it and scan and render. Let's add a camera, and let's connect this to our main camera up there. There you go. So let's see what we have now. Whoop. Yep. And I'm gonna go to RGBA. There we go. And when we render, we have our checkerboard on top of the windshield, which is exactly what we want. What we will also want, let me merge this object on top of my element for now. We'll probably use another function later, but I want to check if it's lining up. It's not too bad. This windshield is actually a bit too big. It's probably covering a bit too much of the car. We need the hood of the car in front. So I will simply use the shuffle and use the ID1 red channel, which should allow us to limit the contribution of this extra texturing. There we go. Up, invert, and I have here a nice checkerboard, which is exactly what we want on a car. All right, so now I'm confident that it's going to work. I can probably add a bit of motion blur on the scan and render, but for now, in the setup stage, it's okay to do without. And I'm going to bring in a few nodes, which are just noise variations, and show you how I'm working it. Okay, so here is a small setup I prepared. So it's very simple. Just have a texture which we are generating with noise, and it's extremely simple. I just have the shape in the alpha. I just have the shape of the windshield, and let me just render this. All right, so I know that now it's following. And same thing, I'm going to start grading a bit the underlying CG car with these maps. That's no ground truth. That's a bit of a dirty trick. But again, you know, when it's Friday night and you need to deliver a shot and they ask for a bit more variation, these kind of tricks, this is fairly efficient, basically. So I'm using the source, and with one, because I use different colors for the maps, red, green, blue, alpha, I can use a different channel as input of my color corrects. So for example, I'm going to use the red, and let's say I want some variations. Let's see how it goes. Okay, yeah, so I want to break it up like this. Again, stay relatively subtle if we can. Just dirty up a bit the windshield, basically. And let's continue up. So ideally, you would want to rename each of them if you wanted to be on a proper pipeline. And this would be, for example, darker windshield surface. But, you know, sometimes if you are in a rush, it's reasonable to expect that you would not do as much renaming. But always good practice if you can. Right, so this one we can maybe add a touch of offset. See what it does. This one is very subtle. Right, yeah. So, you know, we can remain very, very, very light with it. Yeah, 0.01. Something barely noticeable so that we just add a bit of modes and stuff happening in there. And same thing with the blue channel. Up. To be a blue, and let's try if we gain it up a bit maybe. Up, and let's check. Alright. Alright, this one is working too, so very light. Offset technically is not technically correct because you would want it to be affected by the actual lighting of the plate. But again, that for now will do. And let's do a last one for the windshield again, and this one using the alpha. There you go. And same, say come up maybe. All right, so let's say this is what we have. All right, so you can probably turn it down if you think it's going too far. And actually, I'm gonna do it a bit, but the idea is just adding a bit of variations. All right. Okay. Let's let it compute. There we go. So we have some variations. We are breaking up the things. Okay. So one more thing I would like to do, I will darken this lower part. So same as before, I have my general color correct here. I have my Y ramp for the top of the car. I'm going to do the same kind of Y ramp, but for the bottom of the car. So it's going to be, let's say, 0. And I want to select that whole part and go up, up, up. Okay, that's probably okay. And I'm going to lower the brightness of the car, just a touch. Up. Okay, I just wanted to have a bit more presence, a bit more weight, let's say. All right. Up. And darker, lower body. Okay, let's see how that works for now. All right, so that's not too bad. I'm seeing here a lot of the qualities I would like to see for the car. So I'm going to now switch to something else. I'm going to try to create headlights on the car, and I'll catch you in the next video to show you how I approach this.